Oh my God. I'm so sorry. They gave me this room. The key worked. I didn't know.
Sophia Bennet pressed her forehead against the cold airport window, watching rain streak down the glass like tears she refused to shed. The announcement board behind her blinked red. Flight 847 to Boston, cancelled. Mechanical failure, the gate agent had said, with rehearsed sympathy. We've arranged accommodations at the Sterling Grand Hotel. Our apologies for the inconvenience. Her connecting flight to Boston had been cancelled. Mechanical failure. The airline had offered her this. One night in their partner hotel. A small apology. Wrapped in luxury. She could never afford on her graduate student budget. The front desk was chaos. Delayed passengers crowded the counter, voices rising in frustration and exhaustion. Sophia clutched her backpack straps. Her research notes for tomorrow's conference, tucked safely inside. 3 years of work, one presentation that could make or break her academic career. Next! The receptionist barked, her face tight with stress. Sophia approached timidly. I'm with the airline voucher program. Name and ID. The woman's fingers flew across the keyboard, barely looking up. Behind her, another staff member spoke urgently into a phone. Something about overbooking. Something about a VIP guest. Sophia Bennet. More typing. A printer word. A key card slid across the marble. Room 847. 8th floor. Elevators past security. Wait. Is there a? But the receptionist had already turned to the next guest, dismissing her with practiced efficiency. Sophia navigated the maze of the airport hotel hybrid, following illuminated signs, through corridors that smelled of jet fuel and expensive cologne. The elevator was mirrored, reflecting her tired face back at her. Dark circles under brown eyes, her natural curls pulled into a messy bun. Her clothes, rumpled. From 12 hours of travel. From Atlanta. The 8th floor was quieter, carpeted, the sounds of the airport, muffled to a distant hum. She found 847. At the end of a long hallway, the key card beeping green. When she pressed it to the lock, the door swung open to reveal a room that stole her breath. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the runway, where planes taxied, like enormous metal birds preparing for flight, into the Colorado night. The bed was enormous, dressed in crisp white linens. A leather chair sat by the window. Fresh orchids perfumed the air. This wasn't a standard room. This was a suite, meant for someone important. They upgraded me, Sophia whispered to herself, dropping her backpack by the door. They actually upgraded me. Her body ached with exhaustion. Atlanta to Dallas, Dallas to Denver, and now this unexpected layover. All she wanted was a shower and sleep before her morning flight to Boston and the conference that would determine her future. She peeled off her travel-stained clothes, wrapping herself in the plush robe hanging in the closets. The bathroom door was slightly ajar, steam curling through the gap. She frowned. Had housekeeping just cleaned? Sophia pushed the door open and stepped into warmth, then froze. A man stood at the rain shower, water cascading down his back. In silver streams. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with broad shoulders that tapered to a lean waist. A towel hung precariously low on his hips. His skin was tanned, muscles defined in a way that suggested discipline rather than vanity. Dark hair, wet and pushed back, revealed a profile that could have been carved from stone. He turned at the sound of her gasp, his eyes, sharp and gray, like storm clouds over the Rockies, locked onto hers. For 3 heartbeats. Neither moved. Then, who the hell are you? His accent was American, smooth and commanding, with a hint of California. I'm so sorry, Sophia stammered, her face flooding with heat. They gave me this room. The key worked. I didn't know. She spun to flee. But her bare foot caught on the wet tile. The world tilted. She pitched forward. With a cry of alarm, strong hands caught her waist, steadying her against a chest that was warm and solid and still damp from the shower. Sophia's palms pressed against his skin, feeling the steady thud of his heartbeat. Beneath her trembling fingers, she looked up. He looked down. His jaw was angular, dusted with stubble. His lips were pressed into a tight line, but his eyes, those gray eyes, held something beyond anger. Surprise, assessment, something else she couldn't name. Careful, he said quietly, his voice deeper now, rougher. Sophia jerked backward, her face burning. I'm leaving. This is a mistake. I shouldn't be. She fled from the bathroom, her heart hammering. Her hands shook as she grabbed for her backpack, desperate to escape this nightmare. The door handle turned easily in her grip, but when she pulled, nothing happened. She tried again. The door remained, stubbornly, impossibly locked. No, 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 Sophia whispered frantically, pulling harder. Behind her, the man emerged from the bathroom, now wearing dark slacks and buttoning a crisp white shirt. His movements were controlled, measured, but his jaw was tight, with tension. Move aside, he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. Sophia stepped away, watching as he tried the door. Once, twice. His expression darkened. Electromagnetic lock malfunction, he muttered, examining the card reader, the systems glitching. He reached for the phone on the wall, pressed buttons. Silence. He tried again. Nothing. Phone lines are down too. Sophia felt her knees weaken. This can't be happening. The man turned to face her fully. And for the first time, she saw him clearly. He was younger than she'd first thought. Maybe mid-30s, with a face that belonged in boardrooms or on magazine covers. His shirt was expensive, perfectly tailored. A watch on his wrist probably cost more than her entire education. What room number did they give you? He asked evenly. 847. Sophia managed. His gray eyes narrowed. This is 847. But you're clearly not supposed to be here. He studied her more carefully now. The worn backpack, the university logo on her t-shirt, visible beneath her robe. The way she clutched the fabric like armor. Graduate student? How did you? Your bag. The conference lanyard hanging out. He gestured toward her backpack, where indeed, her badge for the Climate Research Symposium was visible. They overbooked. Gave you my room by mistake. Your room? Sophia's stomach sank. I'm so sorry. I'll just. She gestured helplessly. At the locked door. You'll just what? Walk through walls. A hint of dark humor touched his lips. We're stuck. Both of us. The reality settled over her. Like a weight. Trapped in a luxury suite. With a half-dressed stranger who looked at her like she was an equation he needed to solve. I'm calling security, Sophia said, pulling out her phone. No signal. She moved to the window, holding it up. Still nothing. Why isn't there any signal? Electromagnetic interference from the airport systems, the man said. Moving to the minibar, he poured amber liquid into a crystal glass with steady hands. It happens in these rooms sometimes. We're in a dead zone. He held out the glass to her. I don't drink, Sophia said automatically. Then tonight's a good night to start. His gray eyes held hers. Because we're not getting out of here until morning, when maintenance arrives. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Sophia was trapped in a locked room with a stranger who radiated power and danger in equal measure. And the worst part, some small, reckless part of her didn't want to leave. Viewers, before we continue, I need you to do something. If you love stories about unexpected romance, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a like on this video and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. USA, UK, Canada, anywhere in the world. I want to know who's here. Now, let's get into this, because what happens when a wrong room number changes two lives forever is unforgettable. The whiskey burned, but not as much as the embarrassment. Sophia sat perched on the edge of the leather chair by the window, the glass cradled in both hands, watching planes take off into the night sky. Behind her, the stranger, she still didn't know his name, had settled onto the sofa, maintaining a respectful distance that somehow felt more intimate than proximity. "You never told me your name," she said finally, breaking the silence that had stretched between them. "Damian," he replied, after a pause. "Damian Cross." The name landed like a stone in still water. Sophia's breath caught. Damian Cross, real estate mogul, the man who'd transformed struggling developments into architectural marvels. Across 3 continents, she'd seen his face. In Forbes, in business journals, always unsmiling, always in control. "I know who you are," she whispered. "Most people do." There was something bitter in his tone. "And what they know is what they want from me." Sophia took another sip, the whiskey warming her from the inside. "I don't want anything from you, except maybe to get out of this room." His lips curved into something that might have been a smile. "Fair enough. And you are?" "Sophia. Sophia Bennet, climate researcher, graduate student." "Nobody important. I doubt that." Damian's gray eyes studied her with unsettling intensity. 3 years of research, riding on one presentation. That's not nobody. You were listening. I pay attention. He swirled his drink. It's how I survive. In rooms where everyone wants something. The confession hung between them, vulnerable in a way that surprised her. Hours dissolved into conversation. Sophia found herself talking about her research, about climate patterns and melting ice sheets, and the data that kept her awake at night. Damian listened, really listened, asking questions that showed he understood more than she'd expected. In turn, he spoke of building empires on foundations of risk, of board meetings that felt like battlefields, of being surrounded by people who saw him as a bank account, never as a man. "Everyone wants the money," he said quietly, refilling her glass. "No one wants the person behind it." "I see you," Sophia said, the whiskey loosening her tongue, then immediately wished she could take it back. His gaze locked onto hers. Something shifting in the air between them. The planes outside continued their endless dance of arrivals and departures. But inside the suite, time seemed to slow. "Do you?" Damian asked softly, moving from the sofa to sit on the arm of her chair. "Because most people only see what they want to see." Sophia's heart hammered. He was close now, close enough that she could smell his cologne, cedar, and something darker. Could see the flecks of silver in his gray eyes. "I see someone who's lonely," she whispered. "Just like me." His hand reached out, slowly, giving her time to pull away. His fingers brushed a curl that had escaped from her bun, tucking it gently. behind her ear. The touch was feather light, but it burned. "You should sleep," Damian murmured, though his hand lingered on her cheek. "I don't think I can." Sophia's voice was barely audible. Her skin tingled where he touched her. The space between them disappeared. His lips met hers, tentative at first, questioning. Sophia answered by leaning into him, her hands finding the solid warmth of his shoulders. The kiss deepened. Years of loneliness pouring into that connection. They tumbled toward the bed, a tangle of robes and whispered breaths, and hands learning new territory. The world narrowed to touch and heat, and the desperate need to not be alone anymore. Sophia's robe fell away. Damian's shirt followed. Their bodies pressed together, skin against skin, whiskey and want, erasing every boundary, every doubt. "Are you sure?" Damian breathed against her lips, even as his hands traced the curve of her waist. Sophia answered by pulling him closer. "I've never been more sure of anything." Later, much later, they lay wrapped in each other, the sheets twisted around their bodies. Sophia's head rested on Damian's chest, rising and falling with his breathing. His arms circled her waist, protective, even in sleep. Neither of them noticed. When exhaustion finally claimed them, neither saw the phone on the nightstand light up with an incoming message, a message that would shatter everything. Dawn crept through the windows, painting the suite in shades of gray and gold. Damian's eyes opened first, his mind taking a moment to place himself. Then memory flooded back. The storm, the whiskey, the woman beside him. Sophia. She lay curled against him, dark hair spilling across the pillow, her face peaceful, and, in sleep, something in his chest tightened, an unfamiliar warmth he couldn't name. His phone buzzed. On the nightstand, Damian reached for it carefully, not wanting to wake her. The message made his blood freeze. Unknown number. Interesting night. Mr. Cross would be ashamed if certain photos reached the press. Call me. Below the text, an image loaded. His stomach dropped. It was them, him and Sophia, tangled in the sheets, her bare shoulder visible, his face clearly recognizable. The angle suggested it had been taken through the window. High-powered lens, professional setup. His jaw clenched so hard, his teeth ached. A setup. This was a goddamn setup. He turned towards Sophia, really looking at her now. The innocence in her sleeping face suddenly seemed calculated. The wrong room story, too convenient. His hand moved the sheet slightly, and that's when he saw it. Blood, faint but unmistakable, staining the ivory linens. His mind reeled. A virgin. Oh, another layer of the trap. Sophia. His voice came out harsh. Wake up. She stirred, a soft smile forming before her eyes opened. Damian? Who sent you? He stood abruptly, the sheet falling away. He didn't care about his nakedness, only about the rage building in his chest. Who the hell are you working for? Sophia sat up, clutching the sheet to her chest, confusion clouding her features. What are you talking about? He thrust his phone toward her face. This is what I'm talking about. You set me up, the wrong room, the innocent act, all of it. How much are they paying you? Her face went white. She stared at the photo, her hands beginning to shake. I didn't. Don't lie to me, his shout made her flinch. There are pictures, Sophia. Someone photographed us. And conveniently, you just happened to wander into my suite. You expect me to believe that? It was an accident. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I swear to God, Damian, the front desk gave me the wrong room. I would never. Then explain the blood. He pointed at the sheets, his voice dropping to something colder than ice. Is that part of the act too? Make it look like I took advantage of some innocent girl? Sophia's sob caught in her throat. She looked down at the stain, her whole body beginning to tremble. Last night was my first time. I didn't plan this. I didn't plan any of this. How convenient. He laughed bitterly, yanking on his clothes. From the night before. You're good. I'll give you that. The tears. The virgin story. But I've seen better con artists. Please, she choked out, reaching for him. You have to believe me. He jerked away from her touch. Get out, Damian. I said get out. His roar echoed through the suite. Before I call security and have you arrested for extortion. Sophia scrambled from the bed, dragging the sheet with her. Her hands shook so violently, she could barely hold her clothes. Tears streamed down her face as she stumbled into her robe, her movements clumsy. With panic and shame, I didn't do this, she whispered one last time, her voice breaking. I swear on my life, I didn't do this. Damian turned his back to her, his shoulders rigid with fury. He couldn't look at her, couldn't stand the sight of those tears that might be real or might be the performance of a lifetime. Sophia ran. The door slammed behind her, the sound of her sobs fading down the hallway. Alone in the suite, Damian stood frozen, staring at the rumpled bed. His phone buzzed again. Unknown number, 24 hours. To transfer $10 million. Or these go public. You know what that would do to Cross Development's IPO, TikTok. He threw the phone across the room. It cracked against the wall, pieces scattering across the floor. But in the silence that followed, doubt crept in, the genuine shock in her eyes. When she'd seen the photo, the way her hands had trembled, not with guilt, but with terror, the blood that couldn't be faked. What if he was wrong? The thought lodged in his chest, like a splinter, small but sharp and impossible to ignore. Sophia collapsed in the stairwell, 3 floors down, her lungs burning, her face wet with tears. She couldn't go back to her real room, if she even had one. She couldn't face the front desk, the questions, the knowing looks. She'd given him everything, her first time, her trust, and he'd looked at her like she was garbage. Her phone had no signal in the stairwell. No one to call anyway. She was alone, in a strange city, wrapped in a hotel robe, carrying shame that felt heavy enough to crush her. She didn't know how long she sat there before she finally found the strength to move. She slipped down to the lobby, through a service entrance, avoiding the main desk. A cleaning cart sat unattended. She grabbed a spare uniform shirt, pulled it over her robe. At a payphone near the parking garage, she called her friend, Maya, in Boston. I need help, Sophia whispered when Maya answered. Please, I need to leave this city and never come back. Behind her, somewhere in the hotel above. Damian Cross stood at the window of his suite. His reflection, teens stared back at him. A man who'd built an empire on reading people, on knowing when to trust and when to walk away. So why did his instincts scream that he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life? 3 hours later, Damian sat in his office. At Cross Development, his lawyer and head of security, flanking him. The anonymous messages had continued, each one more explicit in its threats. "We can trace the number," Marcus said, his security chief. "But they're using encrypted routing. It'll take time." "I don't have time." Damian's voice was hollow. "The IPO goes public in 6 weeks. If those photos leak, they won't." Catherine, his lawyer, leaned forward. "We negotiate. Find out what they really want." Damian's jaw tightened. Every instinct told him not to give in to extortion, but the alternative was watching his company, everything he'd built, crumble because of one night. One night with a woman whose tears still haunted him. He sent a reply to the unknown number. "I'll pay, but I meet you in person. No deal otherwise." The response came within minutes. "Grove Park, midnight. Come alone, or the photos go live." The park was empty at midnight. Shadows pulling beneath ancient trees. Damian stood beside the fountain, his phone recording in his pocket. He'd told Marcus to stay back. Visible presence would spook whoever this was. Footsteps approached from behind. "Mr. Cross." The voice was familiar, dripping with satisfaction. Damian turned slowly. Victor Reeves. His old business rival smiled, stepping into the fountain's light. Victor Reeves, the man whose company Damian had refused to partner with 2 years ago, who'd lost a fortune when Cross Development chose a different investor. Surprised? Victor's smile widened. "You should have taken my deal when you had the chance." "So this is revenge." Damian kept his voice level. "You blackmail me over a one-night stand?" "Not just blackmail, leverage." Victor pulled out his own phone, scrolling through more photos. "These will destroy your squeaky clean image. Right before the IPO. Investors hate scandal. Your stock price will crash, and when it does, I'll be there to buy up the pieces. You want my company. I want what you stole from me. Respectability, success, power." Victor's eyes glittered with malice. The girl was just bait. A cancelled flight. A confused desk clerk who owed me a favor. The right room number. At the right time. I needed you compromised. She was perfect. Young. Innocent looking. Desperate. I had someone approach her at the airport. Tell her there was a job interview opportunity if she took this hotel voucher. Damian's blood ran cold. She didn't know. Of course not. Unknowing participants make the best pawns. She actually thought she was getting a free room. Victor laughed. "Your paranoia did the rest. You probably destroyed her yourself. Didn't you?" Accused her of being part of it. The guilt hit Damian like a physical blow. Sophia's face flashed through his mind. The genuine confusion, the desperate pleas, the tears he dismissed as manipulation. She'd been telling the truth, and he'd shattered her. "The photos," Damian forced out. "How did you get them?" "Thermal drone. With a high-res camera. Expensive, but worth it. I've been tracking you for weeks, waiting for an opportunity." Victor stepped closer. "Now, About that money? No. Victor's smile faltered. No? You're not getting a dime. Damian pulled out his phone. Stopped the recording. Everything you just said? Recorded. Conspiracy to extort. Corporate espionage. Invasion of privacy. I've got enough to bury you. For years. The color drained from Victor's face. You're bluffing. Try me. Damian's voice was steel. I've already sent a copy to my lawyer. You have two choices. Walk away and delete everything, or I destroy you the legal way. Your reputation, your company, whatever's left of your life. For a long moment, Victor stood frozen. Then his shoulders sagged, the fight drained out of him, replaced by the hollow look of a man who'd gambled everything and lost. Delete them, Damian ordered. Now, in front of me. Victor's hands shook as he scrolled through his phone, deleting file after file. The photos disappeared, one by one. 2 years of planning, evaporating into digital nothing. If I ever see those photos again, Damian said softly, if you ever come near me, or my company, or Sophia Bennet again, I will end you. Understood? Victor nodded once, then turned and disappeared into the darkness. A broken shadow of the man who'd arrived. Damian stood alone by the fountain, his hands clenched into fists. Relief warred with a crushing weight of guilt. Sophia had been innocent. Completely, utterly innocent. And he'd accused her of the worst possible betrayal. He pulled out his phone, dialed Marcus. I need you to find someone. Sophia Bennet. Last seen at the Sterling Grand. This morning. I don't care how long it takes or what it costs. Find her. Sophia sat in Maya's apartment 3 days later, staring at nothing. She'd barely eaten, barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Damian's face, the rage, the disgust, the way he'd looked at her, like she was worthless. You need to talk to someone, Maya said gently, setting down a cup of tea. Sophia wouldn't drink. Maybe a therapist. What happened to you wasn't okay. I just want to forget. Sophia's voice was hollow. Forget the hotel. Forget him. Forget all of it. But forgetting was impossible. The shame clung to her like a second skin. She'd given herself to a man who'd thrown her away like trash. A knock at the door made them both jump. Maya answered, then stepped back in shock. Damian Cross stood in the hallway, looking nothing like the controlled billionaire. From the magazines, his tie was loose, his eyes shadowed with exhaustion, his hair disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it. For days, Sophia, he breathed when he saw her. She shot to her feet, her heart hammering. Get out, please, just 5 minutes. I know I don't deserve it. But, you're right. Her voice shook with fury. You don't deserve anything from me. You called me a liar. A con artist. You made me feel like dirt. I know. He took one step into the apartment, his hands raised in surrender. And I will spend the rest of my life regretting it. But you need to know the truth. I don't need anything from you. It was a setup. All of it. The words came out in a rush. Victor Reeves, a business rival, orchestrated everything. The wrong room number, the photos, the blackmail. You were innocent. You were telling the truth. And I was too blinded by paranoia to see it. Sophia stared at him, her mind struggling to process. What? Damian explained everything. The confrontation in the park, Victor's confession, the deleted photos. With each word, Sophia's knees grew weaker, I have the recording. He finished quietly. Proof of everything. I'm so sorry. Sophia, I destroyed you when I should have protected you. Sophia sank back onto the couch, her hands covering her face. Relief and rage and grief crashed through her in waves. She'd been a pawn, used by a man she'd never met, then discarded by the man she'd given everything to. Why are you here? She asked finally, her voice muffled by her hands. Because I can't stop thinking about you. Damian knelt in front of her, not touching, just close enough that she could feel his presence. Because that night, before everything fell apart, I felt something I haven't felt in years. Something real. You think one apology makes this okay? She lowered her hands, her eyes blazing. You made me hate myself. Damian, you made me feel ashamed of something that should have been beautiful. I know. And if you tell me to leave, I will. I'll walk out that door and never bother you again. His voice cracked. But if there's even the smallest chance you could forgive me, I'll spend every day proving I'm not the monster who hurts you. Sophia's breath caught. She searched his face, looking for lies, for manipulation, but all she saw was raw, genuine remorse. I don't know if I can trust you, she whispered. Then let me earn it, one day at a time. No pressure, no expectations, just a chance to show you who I really am. For a long moment, silence stretched between them. Maya watched from the kitchen doorway, her expression unreadable. Finally, Sophia spoke, her voice barely audible. One chance, that's all you get. The relief that washed over Damian's face was so profound. It looked like pain. Thank you, I promise. I won't waste it. The weeks that followed were careful, tentative. Damian didn't push. He sent flowers with handwritten notes, nothing expensive, just simple daisies that reminded him of her smile. He called before the IPO, his voice tight with nerves, asking if she'd be willing to wish him luck. Sophia kept her distance, but she answered his calls. She read his messages. Slowly, cautiously, she let him prove himself. He showed up at her new job, a marketing position at a non-profit with coffee. They talked on a bench outside, about nothing important and everything that mattered. Tell me about your childhood, she said one afternoon. Damian spoke of a lonely boy in boarding schools, of parents who'd loved their business more than their son, of building an empire to prove he was worth something. His voice carried old wounds he'd never shared before. Tell me about yours, he asked. Sophia told him about immigrant parents who'd worked 3 jobs so she could go to college, about carrying their dreams on her shoulders, about the pressure to succeed that had led to that cancelled flight, that wrong hotel room. That night, that changed everything. I'm glad it happened, Damian said quietly. Not the pain, never that, but meeting you. Sophia didn't answer, but something in her chest loosened. 2 months after that terrible morning, Damian asked if she'd have dinner with him. A real date. Sophia said yes. The restaurant was quiet, elegant, but not ostentatious. Damian had reserved a corner table, away from curious eyes. He stood when she arrived, his eyes drinking in the sight of her, in a simple black dress. You look beautiful, he said. You clean up okay yourself. She smiled, and the warmth of it hit him like sunshine. Over dinner, they talked about everything and nothing. The conversation flowed like it had that first night, but without the whiskey, without the storm. Just 2 people learning each other. I need to tell you something, Damian said as dessert arrived. His hand reached across the table, palm up, an invitation. What I felt that night wasn't just attraction. It was recognition, like I'd been looking for you my whole life without knowing it. Sophia's fingers intertwined with his. I was so angry at you. Part of me still is. I know. But I also understand why you reacted that way. You live in a world where everyone wants something. Trust is a luxury you can't afford. Except with you. His thumb traced circles on her palm. With you, I want to try. Her eyes shimmered. I'm scared, Damian. What if you hurt me again? I will. Not intentionally, but I'm not perfect. I'll make mistakes. He held her gaze. But I'll never doubt you again. I'll never make you feel less than the incredible woman you are. That's my promise. They left the restaurant hand in hand, walking through the city streets. When they reached her apartment building, neither wanted the night to end. Would you like to come up? Sophia asked, her heart racing. Just for coffee, or tea, or whatever. Damian smiled. I'd love that. Her apartment was small compared to his penthouse, but it felt like home. Books overflowed from shelves. Plants crowded the windowsill. Framed photos of her family smiled from every surface. This is you, Damian said softly, taking it all in. Warm, real. They sat on the couch with mugs of tea that grew cold as they talked. Sophia told him about her dreams to start her own marketing firm someday, to travel, to write a book about second chances. I'll help you, Damian said. Whatever you need. Capital, connections, just someone to believe in you. I don't want your money. She set down her mug. I need you to understand that. If this is going to work, it can't be about what you can give me materially. What do you want then? Sophia leaned closer, her hand finding his. Just you. The man who told me about his lonely childhood. Who admitted he's scared of not being enough. The real you, not the billionaire. Damian's breath caught. No one had ever asked for just him before. It was terrifying and liberating in equal measure. That man is yours, he whispered. If you'll have him. Sophia answered by closing the distance between them. The kiss was different from that first night. No alcohol. No desperation, just choice. Pure, clear-headed choice. When they finally broke apart, Damian rested his forehead against hers. I love you, Sophia Chen. I think I have since the moment you burst into my bathroom, looking terrified and brave all at once. Tears slipped down her cheeks, but she was smiling. I love you too. God help me, I love you too. They stayed on that couch until dawn, wrapped around each other, talking and kissing and planning a future neither had imagined possible. Outside, the city woke to a new day. Inside, two people who'd started as a disaster learned what it meant to be each other's redemption. 6 months later, Sophia stood in the doorway of her new office, still unable to believe it was real. Chen Marketing Solutions. Her name on the door, her dream, tangible and true. Damian leaned against the door frame, watching her with undisguised pride. What do you think? I think you did too much. She gestured at the sleek furniture, the state-of-the-art equipment. This is more than a startup needs. You deserve the best. He crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. Besides, I'm investing in a sure thing. You're going to change this industry. Confident in me, always. Their engagement had been quiet, intimate. No grand gesture, just Damian on one knee in her apartment, offering a ring he'd designed himself. A simple band, with a single diamond that caught light like a promise. We started as a disaster, he'd said. Let's spend the rest of our lives proving disasters can become destiny. Sophia had cried yes through her tears. Now, as they stood in her new office, the ghosts of that terrible morning finally felt distant. They'd both carried scars, but they'd learned to turn them into strength. Your parents are flying in next week, Damian said, for the engagement party. Are you nervous? Terrified? He grinned. Your mother is more intimidating than any board meeting I've ever faced. Sophia laughed, the sound bright and free. She'll love you, they both will. And if they don't, then I'll love you enough for all of us. Damian kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. I don't deserve you. You're right, Sophia teased, but you're stuck with me anyway. Later that night, they returned to the Sterling Grand Hotel. Damian had rented the same penthouse suite, 1470, for one night. Sophia's steps slowed as they approached the door. Are you sure about this? We're rewriting the story, Damian said, squeezing her hand. Together, inside, the suite looked different. Softer lighting, fresh flowers, champagne instead of whiskey. They sat by the window, watching the city lights, talking about wedding plans and honeymoon destinations. When they finally moved to the bed, it was with intention, with love, with trust rebuilt from ashes. "I'm so glad that flight was cancelled," Sophia whispered as Damian's arms encircled her. "I'm glad you walked into the wrong room," he murmured against her hair. They made new memories in that suite, washing away the pain of the old. And when morning came, there was no panic, no accusations, no running away. Just two people who'd found love in the ruins of a mistake, holding each other as sunlight painted everything gold. 1 year later, the wedding was small, held in a garden overlooking the ocean. Sophia wore a simple ivory dress that made Damian's breath catch when he saw her walking toward him. Her father placed her hand in Damian's, whispering, "Take care of my daughter. With my life," Damian promised. They wrote their own vows. Sophia spoke of fear transforming into courage, of learning that love meant choosing someone every day, even when it was hard. Damian's voice broke as he promised to be worthy of her trust, to protect her heart the way he'd failed to that first morning, to build a life where she never doubted her worth again. When the officiant pronounced them married, Damian kissed his wife like she was air and he'd been drowning. At the reception, as they danced under string lights, Sophia rested her head on his shoulder. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked quietly. "That night? All the pain that came after?" Damian pulled back to look at her, his eyes serious. "I regret hurting you, every day, I regret that. But meeting you, falling in love with you, never." "Me neither." She smiled, and it was the smile that had captured him from the beginning. Sometimes, the worst mistakes lead to the best endings. Or maybe, Damian said, spinning her under the lights, they weren't mistakes at all. Maybe they were fate. What would you have done if you were in Sophia's shoes? Forgiving Damian and taking a chance on love, or walked away and let justice play out? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And also let us know where you are watching from. USA, UK, Canada, anywhere in the world. And if you enjoyed this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more unforgettable tales of love, betrayal, and redemption. See you in the next one.